So, anyway, this is part 2 of presentation on Merwin Hulbert revolvers. The first part I did a number of months ago, last year or the year before even, and that was on large frame Merwin Hulbert revolvers. And this one is, I've got a couple large frames just for review, and then the rest of it is about medium frame, small frame, and baby. And if we have time, some etc. So by way of review, in the large frames, the first model, large frame, all the large frames are in 44 caliber, either 44 Merwin Hulbert, 44 40, what they called a 73 Winchester, or 44 Russian. Okay, this is a first model, and they're distinguished by the fact that it has an open top. There's no top strap across the top of the cylinder. It has 2 small screws on the left side, just above the trigger guard. No screws on this side. You can see the pin, the head of one of the screws, coming through. And then there is the, let's see, does this one have the detent? I can't tell in this light. Yeah, it does. So it's going to be hard to get off. I won't bother with that. There is an access plate in the bottom of the gun, and right here, and you see the screws that you take out to get to it. The second, third, and fourth don't have that. So that's what distinguishes the first model. The second model is, back up one. The second model is has a large screw on the left side, a large screw on the right side. They basically just took one in from each direction, and it doesn't have the access plate. It still has the open top, and these early ones have what they call scoop flutes, which was kind of a deluxe feature. It's more expensive to do it that way. Instead of having the flutes extend all the way to the end of the cylinder, they just go part of the way, and those are called scoop flutes, and that's one of the features of the early Merwin Hulberts. They got away from that when they got to the third and fourth models. Okay, the second, third, and fourth models were available either as Frontier Army, like these, or as what they called a Pocket Army, which is like this. This particular one has pearl grips, and you'll notice it has the 3/4 inch flute, the 3/4 flutes that go 3/4 the length, and they're open on this end. And when you get to the third and the fourth, you could get it either single action or double action. All right, so now we get into the focus of our presentation for tonight. And the first one is a Larry Jones gun. This is a first model, and what distinguishes the first model Merwin Hulbert is the fact that there is no loading gate on this gun. There's just a hole in the recoil frame, okay, right here, and I have an extra shot so you can see it even better. Okay, so there's the hole, and obviously when it's either in battery, when it's cocked and ready to fire, it's offset so the cartridge won't fall out. But when you load it, you would just put it at half cock, rotate it so it lines up. You could drop in the next cartridge, whatever. And of course, the Merwin Hulberts, and I am remiss in not mentioning this earlier, the distinctive thing about Merwin Hulberts is the way you eject cartridges. Let's take this one for example. So you bring it to half cock, and you hit this latch here, and you twist the barrel, and then slide it open. And there's a ring in the recoil shield that the rim of the cartridge hooks on, and when you do that, the distance is just right, so the fired brass falls out, but the unfired cartridges stay in. Okay, so it's selective ejection. Okay, so that's the first model, and in the medium frames come in 4 models, and the first 3 are all spur trigger. So obviously they're all single action. Okay, there's, you're going to be pulling that trigger a grand total of about 1/4 of an inch, and so it's you're not going to be able to rotate. You take an enormous amount of pressure to rotate the cylinder with only that much travel. Another thing I forgot to mention, gosh, and I forgot this last time too. One of the really cool features of these, and I'll use this one because it's larger. When you swing the barrel out to extract your cartridges, the whole thing cams forward 1/8 of an inch. Okay, you can't see it from where you are, but it opens up just a little bit. And what that does is if you have a blown brass or something like that that's swollen and it's jamming in there, it gives you a 12-to-1, I calculated it, a 12-to-1 mechanical advantage in twisting it to break it loose to extract it. Okay, and other guns did not have anything like that. If you've shot a single action Colt, you're like, oh man, it's really stuck, and you're pushing on the extractor rod trying to punch it out. This, gives you this full, you've got 2 hands on it, and and you're doing all this motion just to move it 1/8 of an inch, and that breaks that seal with that camming action, which is just a really cool feature. But this one is a Larry Jones gun, I believe. Am I right about that? Yeah, this is a Larry Jones gun. It's got the, as Cindy pointed out, the intaglio engraving, which was their factory engraving. It's a punch dot form of engraving. It has a panel scene of a bird, and it has enamel paint. Most of that tends to flake off. So if you find guns with a lot of, and you actually count, oh, this one has 19 dots still there. Okay, you go through and you count them all. This one has a nice red dot there, and it has some black on it. And, I just thought that was the craziest thing when they said, oh yeah, some of them have color engraving. I was like, how do you get color engraving? Well, they cheat, they put paint on it. So that's the spur trigger models. If you want to get into Merwins, by the way, the medium frames are much cheaper than the large frames. Much, much cheaper and much, much more common. You'll see a lot more of them, especially the 4th models are by far the most common of Merwin Hulberts. And so if you want to get into them, that's a great place to start. If you want a sample that's in blue, get a 4th model medium frame because they're way cheaper than any of the other blued ones. If you want an engraved one, if you want a 2-barrel set, get it in a 4th model because it's going to be way, way cheaper. They're just way more common, and people, they want the cowboy guns. They want the big frames, are the ones that are really desirable. Whether they're common or rare, that's just has that desirability factor. The large frames are 44 caliber. The medium frames are 38 or 32, the vast majority 38. And that would be either the 38 Merwin Hulbert proprietary cartridge or the Smith & Wesson 38. Either one will fit. Okay, so the vast majority of these are going to be 38. I think I only have one 32 medium frame. So they're 5-shot 38s or 7-shot 32s. Okay. That's another thing I should have talked about, but I didn't, is the medium frames come either with what they call a saw handle grip, like this, or a skull crusher grip. That was not something they called it, that's just what collectors call it, because it would put a dent in your skull. And really it's where you would attach the lanyard, is what the hole was for. But it would make for a good enforcer when you ran out of cartridges. Okay, you would not want to get hit on the head with one of these. And the trigger guard models, the vast, vast, vast majority are double action. All except for 9 that are known, okay, are double action. And this is the only known 4-barrel set Merwin Hulbert pistol. And I was really delighted to be able to get it. It has the skull crusher type of grip. The condition is not nearly what a lot of these other ones are, but you know, rarity factor made it really desirable. It has a 3.5, 4.5. Let's see, it's 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, and 5.5 inch barrel. It is included in the set, and they all have matching assembly numbers. And it has ivory grips. So you know, I'm really delighted that I was able to get it. The next one is the one I have that is in the 32 long. And nope, I don't have a picture of this one. But it's in 32 long, so it's a 7-shot as opposed to 5-shot. A lot of times they were called target models. Most of them come with the longer 5.5 inch barrel as opposed to the 3.5 inch barrel. So that's this gun. It's engraved, it has color, and I have counted all the dots that are still extant. What is it? 44 dots. That's pretty exciting to have 44. So that's this gun. Then we move on to, yeah, that's this one here. And you might be able to see some of the color dots here, 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 ooh, here, here, here. And you sort of get a sense of which ones would have had the color. And, you know, some of them they're still there and some of them they're not. They flake off. You start getting into, a lot of these have the folding hammer, which was kind of a special feature that Merwin Hulbert had. Which kept it from snagging on your clothes as you pulled it out of concealment. And then you could shoot it single action, or you could grab that hammer and pull it forward so you could thumb cock it. But when you fired it, the motion would snap this back down. So you'd have to pry this up each shot. Okay, but with Merwins, by the way, a lot of them got destroyed because people didn't know that to take them apart or to open them to extract, you have to put it on half cock first. And people go, oh, it's not. They would force it and wreck them. So a lot of them got destroyed because people didn't know that you have to put it on half cock first. So that's a really important thing to know if you ever buy a Merwin. I gave a Merwin small frame to my sister, and I've explained to her, well, about 4 times how you do it, and she keeps forgetting. So she goes, yeah, you're going to have to go over that with me again, because how does that work? So this one, on the back strap, says CPD number 498. And the 498 does not match the serial number. It does not match the assembly number. It's for the Cincinnati Police Department badge number. Okay? This gun has seen some serious use. Okay, this is not a Larry gun. The condition is not up to Larry standards or even particularly close. It's pretty rough. There's a little piece of metal missing here on this, but I wanted it because it has that historic connection. It actually is a Cincinnati Police Department gun. John Kelly, who sadly is not here tonight, actually has a gun from the Greeley Police Department. Okay, so you know there's a few of these out there. In the article I mentioned all the different police departments I know that issued Merwin Hulberts, Cincinnati and Greeley being among them. That I noticed that Art Phelps does not mention in his book whatsoever is that these guns come really with 2 different frame designs. I was trying to come up with wordage for that, and Darren suggested, why don't you call them high wall and low wall? That's great. Let's call them high wall and low wall. So this is a low wall, and what you need to look at is this area right here where the hammer comes through. Okay? This is a low wall. It cuts down much lower, and the vast majority of the low walls have the folding hammer. That's a low wall. Okay, this is a high wall. Okay, it's a more of a gentle slope as opposed to an L shape. So this is a high wall, and the spur trigger, the spur hammer ones, are almost always in the high wall configuration. But there are exceptions because they're Merwin Hulberts and there's always exceptions. So, yeah, another question.
Scott, tell me if you're going to cover this later, but with all these different variances and changing up machining and stuff, how many of each of these models would they make? Like dozens or hundreds?
Yeah, that, you start dealing with all these variants and stuff, you go, wow, is every Merwin Hulbert unique? We don't know how many were made for sure. Ron has some guesses on that based on his research. He goes, well, the highest serial number in this range is this, the lowest is this, the average spread is this, so round up a little bit, about this many. And I keep finding ones that I haven't seen before on the internet, and I add them to my database. I've got about 6 to add right now. But yeah, they were not nearly as common as Colts. They were not nearly as common as Smith & Wessons. But we're talking tens of thousands of guns, but with so many variables. Because not only do you have Ron's extensive list of variations, okay, but you have all these features. You have, is it engraved or not? Does it have, the hard rubber, pearl, or ivory grips? There are some guns that have wood grips. They're never cataloged. I don't know if that was sold with wood grips from the factory or whether those are replacement. They're kind of cute little guns, very easy to conceal. This type of gun, a lot of times were referred to as muff guns. Women would carry these in their muffs in the winter. They would have these big furry muffs that they would put their hands in to keep their hands warm as they were promenading out along the avenue. And if a dog or overly amorous gentleman got aggressive with them, they would then have a gun to pull out to deal with that hazard. So it's a .32 short, and even though it's not a devastating cartridge, at short range, it's certainly going to make its point. Okay, so that's a muff gun, and Merwin Hulbert wanted to get in that market. They were also popular with the bicycling crowd. If a dog came out and was giving them trouble, it was nice to have a little something to dissuade Cujo and make him go away. So that's the muff gun.
What's the capacity on those?
Those are 5-shot. So the medium frame .32 is 7-shot. The small frame, and they really are smaller. So if I were to hold up these side by side, you can maybe see the difference in the size of the two. Okay, so 38 5-shot, 32 5-shot, and then this one here is 32 7-shot. Okay, so just to give you an idea. Okay, the babies, the so-called babies, and I'm not sure Ron's going to deal with the babies or not, are obviously not typical Merwin Hulberts. They don't have the twist action. They're a tip-up model, and these are 22 7-shot tip-up models, and clearly they're a copycat. Clearly, there's no question. And they were sued for it. Okay, Smith & Wesson took them to court. The one thing that kind of distinguishes them is the Smith & Wesson has a 3 3/16 inch barrel. The Merwin Hulbert has a 3 1/16 inch barrel. Okay, so it's more concealable. So that's their selling point. Okay, these were not manufactured at the same place as all their other guns, which was the Hopkins and Allen factory, which they owned half of. They were manufactured by O.C. Cummings in Lowell, Massachusetts. O.S. Cummings in Lowell, Massachusetts. These are also, I would divide these into 3 categories also, not by anything distinguishing in the guns, but the early ones are stamped Merwin Hulbert and Company, New York on the top rib. Okay, the second variation of these, the top rib is cross-hatched out. That was after they lost the lawsuit, okay, and they had already made the guns, and they were already tempered, so they just cross-hatched it out and sold the guns. Then all the guns they made after that are like this gun, and what it says on the top rib on the barrel is Smith & Wesson model, Merwin Hulbert and Company, New York. Okay, so and they paid a royalty. They probably had to pay royalties retroactive for the early guns, also, I assume. But they were in violation of the patent. Any questions? I see a hand.
You mentioned that they were related to some other company. Can you go over how this might be related to other gun companies?
Okay, well, Merwin Hulbert had basically a sporting goods store in New York City, and they would, arrange to have guns manufactured, stamped for them, sort of like Ward's did with J.C. Higgins and Sears and stuff like that. But when they bought the patents from Daniel Moore to make this twist action design, they decided they were going to buy into a company so they could control the manufacture. And so they bought 50% ownership in Hopkins and Allen in Norwich, Connecticut. And so all of these guns were manufactured at that factory. Sadly, they marked their guns with the Hopkins and Allen name, which was really dumb marketing. They had a Cadillac gun and they were marketing it as a Vega, okay, because the Hopkins and Allen guns were basically entry-level, low-priced guns. The Merwin Hulberts were high-priced, deluxe guns, and you market the other way. You don't say, well, this Cadillac was made by Chevy. You say this Chevy was made by the same company as Cadillac. And they just did it backwards. And that's one of the things that really hurt them and why I say they were questionable with their business practices. Yes?
Did anyone else copy that extraction design, especially after the fire?
Oh, bless you for asking that question. No American manufacturer did, but there were brevet Merwin Hulberts, and those are out there. You'll see them occasionally. They were made in both Belgium and Spain. I don't have one of either one of those. Some of the copies are very good, I'm told, and some of them are kind of sketchy. But because they were cool and desirable, the Belgians and the Spanish both made copies. As far as I know, only of the large frames, not of the medium or small.
Well, Scott, I thought this was a fabulous talk, and whoever missed it, missed out. So thank you very much.
All right.